Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. Before I start, I would humbly plead with you to please click the subscribe button below. It really helps me out and it doesn't cost you anything. YouTube is not going to track you any more than they already do if you click it, so please click it while you listen to this video. Thank you. So what in the world should one do with Nano Dimension, stock symbol NNDM? The whole purpose of investing in the stock market is to have more money when you end than when you started. Let's look at some charts. Since it was floated in 2015, Nano Dimension has lost 96.28%. That means that $100 invested in it less than 7 years ago would leave you with $3.72 today. During the same time period, a broad-based index like the S&P 500 has increased by 157%, and that's taking into account this year's current bear market. Now, I've had viewers in the past argue with me and say that my numbers are incorrect because there was a reverse split for Nano Dimension in the past. That is adjusted in the first chart, so don't worry, I'm not misleading you and you don't need to write to me complaining about that point. By the way, for full disclosure, I've had a couple shares of Nano Dimension in the past. I bought it when it was going up, and soon after I bought it, it had made a fair amount of money, and then I held on to it and sold it at a loss. I'm not shorting the stock, and I have no intention at the present to trade the stock in any way. I'm simply making this video for educational purposes, and even if I wanted to manipulate the price of the stock one way or the other, the small number of viewers that I have in no way could move the market at all. So what are the negatives besides the stock losing over 95% of its value over the course of its lifetime? The company is currently losing money. Look at the charts and financial tables. In the past, they've lost money. They are currently losing money. There's nothing that I can see that will reverse that anytime soon. So your investable dollars are better spent in putting it in something with a greater probability of investment returns. And by the way, if these shares are undervalued at this point, then why is ARK Invest and Cathie Wood selling rather than buying at this point? Or for that matter, why isn't anyone else buying? Why aren't executives buying at these prices? Sure, there's the possibility that you could buy at Nano's current low price, and if you're lucky, there might be a bump up and you could sell at a profit. But again, look at the chart and think to yourself, you could have put your money in so many other things and come out ahead. The company is losing money. The sales that they do have are on a fairly small number of expensive machines. Analysts point out that their gross profit margin is 50 to 60%. Well, that's great, but there's lots of other companies that achieve that. Look at the gross profit margin for iPhones from Apple. I'm not going to bother looking up the returns on stock in Apple for the past 7 years, but I imagine that it's positive as opposed to Nano Dimension's declines. And despite Nano Dimension's 50 to 60% gross profit margin rate, still they're losing money. Analysts point out that they have over $1 billion in the bank. That's certainly true, and that's great for the company. But that money came from a secondary share offering last year. It's not because they sold a bunch of machinery and made money. They sold a bunch of new shares, which diluted existing shareholders. And still the stock keeps falling faster than the current bear market. People argue that the problems of the company up until recently were the fault of the previous management. The new managers will take the company to profitability. They point out that the CEO was a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force. Great, but actually the history of military people and business as managers is not all that great. However, looking at Mr. Stern's resume, he does have actual high-tech business experience. So that's good. Now, doing research, it turns out that there are at least a couple prominent Yoav Sterns, one who is 52 and the other who is 68. Writers or AI on the internet sometimes conflate the two people. The CEO of Nano seems to be 68 years old. What's interesting is when you look at his own LinkedIn profile, it says that he started college in 1968. That was approximately 53 years ago. So if you subtract 53 from 68, you get 15. Of course, depending on the start date and birth date, that could be 14 or 15 or 16 years of age. But that does seem to be a bit young to start college, unless he's a genius. And if he's such a genius, then why did it take him until 2019 to earn a master's degree? The last negative thing that I'm going to point out is that there is always the danger that the company will enact a second reverse split. Reverse splits are usually bad because it tells you that the company thinks that the shares are going to continue falling into the foreseeable future. If a stock gets too low, it risks being delisted from exchanges. But the problem with reverse splits for the small investor is that most, but not all, brokerages and trading platforms will charge a fee for reverse splits, which is never charged for regular splits. In the case of my account, which is a no commission account, I'm charged a $38 fee for a reverse split. Now, what about the positives? Recently, there was an article published on Seeking Alpha and one from a few months ago on The Motley Fool. I'm going to put some of that information from those to show you what others argue are the positives for the stock going forward. Again, for the near to medium term, I don't think that these are valid. And I think that for the long term, they may well not come into fruition. But I want to give my viewers the opportunity to see what the other side argues. I'm going to put up each one for a short time, but remember, this is YouTube. You can pause it to read the whole thing. And again, I'm just putting up some of the main arguments from these two articles. The one from Seeking Alpha is quite long, and the one from The Motley Fool is quite short and also looks at two other stocks. After reading the whole articles online and other sources of information that you find about the company, including looking at their financials, which you can find all over the internet, then and only then should you make any decision on buying or selling Nano Dimension. So, if after doing your own research you agree that Nano Dimension is not a good security to invest in, then what should you put your money into? Again, I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not giving you financial advice. We're in a bear market, which means that the market is now going down. The world is experiencing war on the edge of Europe, with one country threatening to use nuclear weapons. After 2 years of a deadly global pandemic, the United States and perhaps other countries are facing a potential recession, and the aforementioned war could greatly affect food supplies and therefore prices of food throughout the world. The United States is facing the highest inflation rate that we've seen in many, many years, and other countries are also experiencing high inflation. So domestic stock markets could continue to go down or sideways for a period of time, possibly for a number of years. I'm always long-term bullish on the American stock market because I think long-term companies sell goods and services to consumers and their stock prices eventually go up. That being said, often the standard advice is to dollar cost average into mutual funds which track broad market indices like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ Spiders or the Dow Jones Industrial Average. This is not advice, but long-term investing in indices like those is generally fairly safe and financially rewarding if you are a patient long-term investor. For potential investors willing to take more risk, I think that recent hits to the shares of Amazon and Tesla, due to a combination of both financial results and or other news, has potentially provided an opportunity to get into them at this point. Again, this is not financial advice. I've done several videos on Palantir, and in fact, Palantir, Amazon, and Tesla are my three largest holdings. I think at recent lows, Palantir is a very intriguing stock with great prospects. Do your own research on them to see if it may be appropriate for some part of your well-diversified portfolio. But of course, view all my videos on Palantir also for additional ideas about that company. Two others to research at this time might be Pool Corporation, stock symbol POOL, and Crown Castle International, stock symbol CCI. One sells pool supplies, the other operates cell phone towers. I no longer own any shares in these two companies, but I have in the past, and I did well when I owned and sold them. Both pay dividends, but looking at the chart, you need to be very cautious and do your own research. This may or may not be the time to get into them, but if you do your own research and like the company or companies and determine what price to buy into them if prices continue to fall, then you'll be prepared to buy them when you think it is prudent. And the thing about pools is if you have a pool, you can probably afford to buy the supplies, and you need to buy the supplies, otherwise you're going to have a hole in the ground full of algae that nobody will swim in. Okay, that's enough about stocks for today. I would really appreciate it if you made it this far if you leave a comment, either positive or negative. I can take the negative criticism, and in fact I've made videos in the past where I specifically analyze various viewers' critiques of my arguments. I would love to do that again if viewers leave comments. And if you like this type of content and want to see more, it would really help me out if you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, please view my other videos, and if you like them, click the like button. It helps out if you leave comments in the comment section for each one. I'm on Instagram at Anthony RR Mills. You can follow me there. Since this channel is not yet monetized, if you want to help me out, I sell small collectibles on eBay. Things like old stock and bond certificates, coins and bank notes, stamps and postal items, and books, among other things, as well as Masonic items. If you're interested in buying silver coins as collectibles or investments, I usually have some listed. And if you're interested in investing in gold or silver as a commodity, I have a few YouTube videos that explain how you can easily do that, plus some of the pitfalls in doing so. You can find my items on eBay with my username stock_tycoon. Thanks for watching.